So welcome everyone to one more episode of our Real AI Now podcast. Today I'm very excited. We have a very special guest. His name is Jan Myszkowski. I hope I pronounced your name well.
Perfect.
Jan is the head of the Talanx Best Practices Lab. Talanx is an insurance group, a global insurance group. Jan is a leader in the insurance industry. He's been at BCG, Allianz, Iduna, and now since a few years on the Talanx group. He heads the Best Practices Lab. You can tell us a bit about that if you're allowed to. In my understanding, it's a unit that brings companies in the Talanx group together and from all over the world and talk about best practices in digitalization, digital transformation, and change, and all those things. So welcome, Jan. Thank you for accepting to participate in our podcast. So could you talk a bit about yourself and your background in insurance and what motivated you to work on insurance?
Yeah, sure. So thank you for having me. I actually came to insurance accidentally. I never planned to go to insurance. But
Same with me, by the way.
Once I got in, I really liked it, and I liked it until today because it's I think it's an industry that is very exciting because for two reasons. Number one, it was that one of the first industries that fully digitalized, basically no paper, no nothing. It was a handshake when it started, and over time it became kind of like an onion. That there were like lots of things, guidance and regulations whatsoever, but our roots are actually super digital, basically handshake, one click or whatever you would call it today. And number two is that you never run out of risks because whatever changes happen in the world, we are kind of like following. Sometimes we are maybe a bit ahead, but we never run out of the risks, which is our core business. And we are also trying to work on the prevention, on services around that. But what we do is basically we identify the risk, a real one or one mental one, where you are scared of something that actually doesn't happen. That's the best risk because you can make lots of money. But there are lots of real risk that every change, every technological change produces, also the climate and so on. And yes, there are many innovations, many startups trying to kind of change it, disrupt it, which is good because it makes us move. But it is very exciting, and I think very underrated industry because this is probably one of the few, if maybe not the only industry where we make money if nothing happens. So most industries make money if something happens. So right. You eat the food, you I don't know, use the car, whatsoever. For us, basically, is that perfect match with the customer because customer is buying insurance not to have a claim,
hoping
but that nothing happens. So basically, you insure your house and you hope that nothing happened. Right. And if nothing happened, we make lots of money. Yeah, unfortunately, things happen. Yeah? And I think this is very
and people sleep better.
Underrated USP because we basically are absolutely 100% overlap with the customer wishes. You know, you don't want that something happens. You want to be healthy. If something happens, of course, we jump in. Yeah.
If I may challenge that a bit, I agree with you that insurance is highly underrated. First point. So before I started working on insurance, I was working for the space industry, and insurance and financial services seemed to me one of the most boring things to work on. Now, then I moved to insurance and I worked on a reinsurer, and reinsurers have this macroeconomic vision of the world. And it was astonishing how interesting it is, right? And especially the mission, right? Something that I didn't realize is that it's about making the world more resilient and individuals more resilient so that they can actually survive, recover faster from a crisis, from something bad that happens. And that
Exactly.
could be from somebody stole your bicycle, or you had a flood in your apartment, or a fire, or
Yeah.
you had an accident, or whatever it is. So whatever bad thing that happens, that you can actually survive and recover faster from it.
Exactly.
Of
So
course.
we are in a you could say we are in a business of disruption. We always been there, but we try to make the disruption less painful for you. Yeah,
Exactly.
not in a sense like startups,
And
but you have a core business, you have an idea, you have a plan, you have a life, and whenever it gets disrupted that you don't plan or want it, we jumped in and help you to go back to where you want it to be. Yeah,
exactly. And that's actually the beauty of insurance. And there's also one of the things, and this is where that I said that I wanted to challenge you, was it's not that nothing happens. People are paying so that they know that they're safe and they can sleep better, and they can take more they can take safer
more
steps
risky,
in their
yeah,
life, knowing that if something happens, they are safe, and this is worth paying the money alone. This
exactly.
So it's not that nothing happens. Well, the bad things don't happen, the losses don't happen, but you are providing value in which people sleep better, people feel better, feel that they are safe, and this has value alone, right? I pay for that to sleep better.
Yeah. Unfortunately, what happened is like also in car industry and some other industries that because of this, I would say, weak marketing from our side, it's changing a bit. The main focus is on price. So people consider in buying insurance like expense. Yeah. When you have an expense, of course, you always try to lower it down. Yeah.
Of
But
course.
in fact, it's an investment because you say, well, I invest in my plan, in my life, and you should actually look at the insurance. Can they provide the service? Are they doing well? Are they customer focused? Blah, blah. And if you want to save €5 by buying, let's say, different insurance, you might end up with a big loss because this investment will never produce a return on investment. So you will never be helped or whatsoever. So this is something that I think we have to work on, because most of the valuable things you would never sell for a few euro, but it's your life, it's your supercar, it's your house, whatsoever,
there is no sustainable development without insurance.
Exactly.
There
And
is
if you look at it, I mean, the insurers are, if you, I drink still water, most brands make 30% margin of nothing that is like tasting, has a smell or color, whatsoever. They just get it out of the world. People paying 30% margin for that. But if you buy insurance, our margin is like 5% maximum. Yeah. So, and there's also a second thing that startups often forget about insurance if they want to disrupt it, that we are actually collecting money for governments. So we collect the money, we invest in government bonds, corporate bonds. So this is the biggest collector of money to finance the economies. So this is something that people often forget, that we don't take this money and just keep it, but we invest so that the state can run, which is very important in startups. If they want to do it, you have this kind of a dual mission, to serve the customers, but also finance the states. Yeah. Pension and stuff.
I mean, I agree with you. So insurance is essential. There's no sustainability. There's no sustainable development without insurance. There's no going from being a country that is developing into an industrialized country without insurance. That simply does not work. Even agriculture, in order to develop, to modernize, it needs insurance. So it's clear. It has a bad reputation because
the risk. Yeah, it's lowers the risk of your decisions. Yeah, you can go for different things with insurance. Where without insurance, the risk might be too high to go for it. So even the innovation changes would be less likely without insurance, probably. Yeah.
So, trying to bring the topic to the tech and to the fact that so the topic of the podcast is AI's technology. So we know that technological disruption is changing all industries around the world. And so what do you see that are the changes brought up by technology, or the main changes brought up by technology now in the insurance industry? So I'm thinking of first, new risks brought by technology, and second, changes in the business model of insurance, changes in the insurance industry brought up by the technology as well. How do you see that?
I mean, the number one, I would say the basic case is you can do the same things more efficient. Yeah. So you are able to shorten the processes, to automate the processes, to pre-fill things because you're using data and technology. You have disintermediate certain parts like direct insurance and so on. You can be faster in claims management because so the basic thing is like you can do the same things but faster, cheaper, so and then you can give it back to the customer and have better customer service and stuff like that. Yeah, you can also be more customer focused. Yeah, because if I may, because I wanted to share a picture sometimes to show you one picture that represents it. You as an insurance, for the experience of the customers, very often you bring the complexity of the insurance of the company to the customers. So the customer has to type the data. You basically all the complexity is the customer. Yeah. So on the one hand, the one extreme is like, I don't know, one-click buying on Amazon or some service where you can check in and Lufthansa or other airlines is very easy. So the company keeps all the complexity inside. So the picture is basically like the good one is like an iceberg where you have only the 1/9 of the iceberg is the work of the customer and the rest is under the water where the company does it for you by using data, by using automated process whatsoever. And sometimes the traditional companies is kind of like the inverted kind of iceberg where you have the 8/9 of the iceberg you ask the customer to repeat it, to come again, to work with the process where the company basically internally doesn't know the customer because after 2 weeks or whatsoever. So this is, I think, something that is very helpful, the technology and data, to recognize the customer, to be proactive, to do cross-selling, to do a better service. So this is something that definitely is helping. On the next level, you could say, okay, I can be, especially in our case, you can be better in predicting risks. So you don't wait until the risk happens, but you, for example, we have in Mexico, we have the mobile inspectors. When an accident happens, we send the person to the accident to capture the data, help the customer, and so on. And our aim is to be faster than the pizza. So usually on average we are in 20 minutes we are there. It doesn't matter where it is, yeah. And we also, because we have lots of data. And
this is an insurance company sends a person there.
Yeah. Yes. This is our employee. So because we have lots of data, we can almost predict that in this area there will be 5 accidents probably on Friday evening. Okay. So we keep these people around because it just happens. Like we know that it happens. Yeah. So you can be proactive, and definitely in the area of fraud, because typically you have like 2, 3, 4, 5% of fraud that we have to pay without knowing who it is. So we use lots of AI and data to identify the fraudulent cases, where there's organized crime and stuff. So you start with automation efficiency, then you can be more proactive. You can provide different services. You can be You better understand the client because you use the data, and this is like endless. You can the problem is for us. We also use behavior economics a lot, but the problem is that we have not collected lots of data that is relevant, and we're only starting now. For example, transactional data. You know, did you call? Where did you call? What did you say? So we usually collect the kind of static data.
Right.
And we only now starting to collect the other data. So it's like a kind of like a flying wheel. The more data you collect, the more you see, the more you can do. And we are at the beginning of the cycle, I would say. Huh?
Okay. So there's 2 or 3 things that you said that I would like to dig deeper on. And one of them is the picture you've shown, right? There was 2 icebergs. One was the tip of the iceberg was Amazon. Amazon doesn't show you the complexity behind. So you click buy now and they have all this machinery, delivers the product tomorrow. And it's so simple, right?
Yeah.
Even though what's behind it is not simple at all, right?
Exactly.
But for the customer, it's beautiful, it's simple. And that's why Amazon is so successful. On the right side, you had the iceberg like inverted, where the complexity was upside down, was showing the entire complexity to the customer. One example, and this is an issue with the insurance industry. I agree with you, and
not only, industry, no?
but if we are talking here about the insurance industry, I give you a very short example. I had my car outside. I went on vacation. When I came back, I had damage on the car, and this was caused by hail, by like rain, the ice rain. And so I called the insurance. I reported it, and I said, "Look, I have hail damage in my car." And they asked me, "So could you please tell us when this happened?" I don't know. I was on vacation. But we need a date. We need a date of loss. Otherwise, we cannot file the claim. And then so I went online. I looked. It was in Zurich, in Switzerland. I used to live there. So I went online and asked, "Okay, when did it hail in Zurich?" During August, when I was on vacation. And I saw 14th of August, whatever. I sent that to them. They sent a letter, and this was all. I emailed them, and they answered by mail, snail mail. They sent me a letter back. They didn't use an email channel. So for privacy reasons, apparently. Anyway, they sent me a letter back saying, "Oh, we read the reports, and there was no hail that day." In Zurich, the 14th. So I wrote them back saying, "So if you have access to this information, why are you asking me?" Why are you asking?
But this is exactly the aspect, because they don't.
They have their processes. I don't care. You have access to the weather data. You look it up when it happened. I'm just telling you, there is hail damage in my car. I don't care where it happens. If you need a date, you find a date. Don't push that work to me. It's not my job. It's yours, right? I pay the insurance. You give me the coverage. I don't do your job for you, right? And this happens all the time. So, right? Second example is I call my insurance company where I have my household and my car. I call them, and at a certain point in the conversation, they say, "Oh, but this is with the household insurance department. I'm going to hand you over to another person." And then they give me another person. I need to tell the story again from the start to the second person. Again, I don't care about the internal processes of the company. They should figure it out themselves, but they expose them to me and make my life more difficult. That's
but this is, you see, the pictures not taken from reality. I want to share something else with you. This is
I had a question, right? I had a question after this. So the question is exactly, this is a good picture. So the difference between employee to employee and end to end. The question I had for you is technological change, right? And all these benefits brought by technology, they also imply that there needs to be an organizational change in insurance companies, right? Because
absolutely,
if this doesn't happen, the customer, you said, "Oh, it's doing the same, just faster and more efficient." Well, if the organization doesn't change, this cannot happen. Do you agree?
Absolutely. But this, I think with the data and we seeing more, you generate experience for those people who want to see it, who want to change it. And this experience makes a change, because you can Google things, you can preach it, you can put slides whatsoever, but only the experience of the, let's say, claims handler. Or so if the people would record your talking when you notify the claim, and they do the analysis of it, and they say, okay, there are a couple of guys who actually had this problem, then you start thinking about what can we do differently whatsoever. You know, this picture that I'm just sharing is like end to end, yeah. And end to end, most of the companies or insurance would see like employee to employee. So the process starts within the company and ends within the company, yeah. But end to end means that almost every relevant process starts outside of your company. Mm-hmm. Not even insurance, but insurance also, mm-hmm. and ends outside of the company. So you have to really say, okay, well, something is triggered. In this case, you're with a claim outside the company. It comes to the company. You have to do something with it, and it ends up with you having the car repaired or fixed whatsoever. Yeah, and this is something that it seems like very obvious, but most companies, not even insurance, they don't do it. Yeah, and because you are not an island. You are connected with other companies, especially with your clients, and they are outside of the company. So each process has to start and end outside the company. And for your case that you just mentioned, and there is, I mean, we also do it, Hannover Re and some retail companies. It's a perfect case for parametric insurance, mm-hmm. because we know exactly, especially for agriculture, but also for hail, like for damage on cars, we know exactly what it happens. You don't even have to notify the claim. We know it happened. If it has this severity, then you get the money next day on your account. Yeah. And if it's not parametric, we will know exactly that it happened in this area. Sometimes it's this street and not this street. So all the data is available. We also invest in some startups in this area. And so you don't have to prove, because we do it. Yeah, the same. For example, in some countries where we have a telematic insurance, that you have data to prove that it was read, or you break, the other party is claiming the same. So you can use this data for all kind of things, to make your life easier, to maybe help you to prove that you were not mm-hmm. wrong. All the way to being like parametric, where you don't have to do anything. It will be just transferred to your account, because we know that was this amount of water or hail or whatsoever. Yeah. So this is, but this experience with data, with this kind of cases, makes hopefully people internally think what we need to change, do differently. Because it's data, it's not an opinion of somebody. So let's be more customer centric, but it's like a real data that the customer are leaving you, or NPS is very low. It's data, and you can act on it. You know.
So where do you start? Do you start by collecting it? Because you mentioned recording the phone call, and this are somehow collecting the data about the fact that this process of claiming the debt for that loss with my car in the hailstorm, they must have had hundreds of people or thousands of people
sure
filing a claim for that exact same event, right? So
I mean,
is that the data you're talking about? So they collect the data about that. They know that in Zurich that day there were 5,000, 10,000, I don't know how many people who filed a claim for that, because of that exact same event, right?
Exactly.
Now, this is the data, right? This is the data. There must be some kind of function in the company that is actually not dealing with everyday operations, because these people cannot. So somebody else needs to sit down and look at this data and say, look, this is fairly inefficient and it's not a good customer experience. So we need to bring this to the next level. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. And the biggest problem is that you have years and years, sometimes 100 years of kind of processes, way doing things, whatsoever. Yeah. So you have this, in a way, successes where it's okay, it worked like that, and you just follow this. And if there's this kind of event, maybe it will never reach the certain person that could decide or whatsoever. So we don't have, depending on the company, but we are at the very beginning to have kind of like a setup for to read these signals, yeah? Because there are signals, yeah.
Yes.
Like, I don't know, you see the cloud coming, maybe the rain. And in private life, you read lots of signals all the time, yeah. And the companies sometimes are blind or don't listen because they are, you know, like in this video where they don't see the monkey, the gorilla, where you count the balls, yeah, because you focus on something different, yeah. And when you say, okay, hey guys, let's have a setup, let's have a team or something horizontal across functions to do this. You know, I suggested, we haven't done it yet, but hopefully we will do it soon, to have a podcast from the calls from the contact center. Every day when you go to work, there's like 2 calls as a podcast that somebody say, okay, these are very relevant for CEO, for whatever. So people going to work, listen to the podcast because we record it. Yeah.
Okay.
You can sanitize it, whatever, you know, and it brings you to different ideas because you have to kind of influence, have this experience. People start thinking, but in order to kind of
like internal podcasts, you mean, like internal in the company.
Internal podcasts. Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. The 2 best calls from yesterday, 1 positive, 2 negatives or something. Yeah. And you can even talk about them because this is the real assets, a gold. The customer telling you what they want or don't want or whatsoever. Yeah. If you want to systematically build it up, it takes time. Yeah. Why? Because let me share something. Because it is typically it's a big change. It's like really, really big change to say, okay, become data driven or whatsoever. And then what companies or the CFOs or CEOs say, okay, show me the money. I want to see a result. What does it mean for my bonus this year, whatsoever? So you have a competition between short-term result because of my bonus, whatsoever, and a long-term investment, you know. And what I use as an example here to convince our people, and we really start moving in the, I think, right direction. I use this picture of the Shanghai Tower, which is 2,000 feet high and 2,080 feet, even more below the earth, right? Okay. And what they did to build this tower, they built like 27 months. They built the tower under the ground. Nobody could see nothing. There was nothing basically, but they were working for 27 months. And then for another 29 months, they built the tower that everybody see and you can see in the pictures whatsoever. So as an analogy to building up a data-driven organization with a governance, with data cleaning, cases, whatsoever, some companies, we also did it for some time, we look for cases, case 1, case 2, POC, whatsoever, lots of things that you can see, but those cases don't have a fundament, yeah? So that I'm saying you have to spend really like 27 months to build the fundament, data governance, teams, cleaning, whatsoever, and you will see nothing, yeah? There will be no bonus, nothing for that. But after this 27 months, when you build the tower, it will stand. It will stand firm for years, and you can, you can extend it or whatsoever. And this under the ground work is very often neglected. I said, no, I want to see something. Show me the money, quick wins, whatsoever. This statement. And so once you convince the company to say, look, we have to build up the fundamentals. And so what we do at Talanx, we have communities that are exchanging, they are working together. We discuss the governance. We say, okay, which pieces do you still missing? Do you have a team that has an access to democratize the data, that people can see it, collect certain data? lots of it has to be done before you see anything above the ground.
Right.
And most companies don't do it, which makes everything very shaky, and you cannot build high if you don't have a fundament. Yeah.
So is there? So you're saying that there is no free lunch, or with other words, you cannot just become data driven without doing the foundation work.
I think it will be very unsustainable. It will be driven by short-term wins, and eventually you will have no scalable model, because you will have, every time there will be new project. Every time you start to, can I use this data? Oh, I forgot the privacy or whatsoever. So every time there's no scaling. Basically, you will always face the same problems and not scale. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I like that. I like that very much, what you just said, and I agree with you. Basically, I think the same. And so could you talked about very quickly about what those things are. Could you elaborate a bit more what those foundations are? So we are talking about making an organization data driven, because without that, you can't really do those improvements that we were talking about. So, and what is that foundation that is required? What is the part of the tower that is not visible?
You don't see. Yeah. I mean, different people would call it differently, but for me, it's number one is ownership / governance. That means somebody has to own it.
You mean the data?
Not the specific data, but the topic. If you start with more or less zero, you have to have somebody who say, okay, I own this topic. Yeah. So becoming data driven is my job. Yeah. And it can be a bus of people. It has to be one person, ideally in the board, that say, I am the guy who will tell you in 6 months what we've done. So you have the commitment and ownership. Yeah.
Is that a chief information officer, a chief data officer in a large company?
It doesn't matter. Ideally, somebody from business rather than technical. Yeah.
Okay.
So somebody who can bridge both, IT and business. It's still there.
I agree.
Yeah. And so you have somebody who's okay. I will, if somebody asks me in the board in 6 months, I will be the guy to say, okay, what have we done? What did we move? Yeah. So the ownership of the topic, of the change. Yeah. Then you need to have a structure that fits your company. I mean, if you are a centralized company like Allianz maybe or AXA, the structure will be different than in our case, because we have to translate it into our organization, our body, because we are decentralized. So to have a central team for Talanx doesn't make sense. It would not, the body would not accept it, So this transplant, whatever you call it, yeah. So you have to say, okay, what should it be for us? What does it mean? That means, in our case, it's more kind of shared structures, shared governance, but you need to have somebody on the operational level. So, okay, what is the governance for HDI Global, which is industrial insurance? And they are really, really advanced on that one, but they started really building it below the surface with Thomas Kurt, who is the responsible board member for that, and the team. They did a really good job. On the retail side will be probably Mexico that is doing a really good job, because they started really to build up layer by layer and have a governance. Say, okay, we have people who have a clear responsibilities, including people who are bridging the data IT to business, so they understand that and then can work together on that. So you need this ownership on the main topic, on the operational level, the governance, who owns which data, who can change to whatever. Then you need, of course, these people will have to work on data sources, internal, external. Which sources do we use? Which data do we collect? Or maybe we collect it, but we never use this data. We had also these cases where we had like lots of profit by using one variable for pricing that we never used, but we had it. Yeah. So you start discovering things. And then of course they have to decide on the tools, on the infrastructure, and processes, how we work with this for the potential use cases. So it is all start scaling. Yeah. So if you say I build a balcony before having a wall, well, okay, you can maybe hold it for some time, but then say, okay, I'm tired, so the balcony will collapse. Once you have the fundament and you think ahead, then you can build any house, any balcony, any roof, you can extend it whatsoever. And these layers are governance, tools, infrastructure, processes, how do we work with the business together, and so on. Yeah.
So building essentially these capabilities, right? Business and technological capabilities. So this business capability built on top of people, processes, technology. This is what you're talking about now. This in itself doesn't show value immediately, or at least it's hard. Now,
it's underground. It's underground. But the best things happen underground. When they start the revolution, it starts underground.
Right. So, and the analogy of the building is very good. I have a friend. Who's an engineer, civil engineer. We were looking at this new building that was being built next door, and he was looking and saying, "Well, the foundations are all ready." So, and they've been working on this for 6 months now. The next 3 months, you're going to see 5 stores of the building going very fast, right? So that's impressive because they're going to build 5 stores.
It's much faster. It's much faster to build.
Faster than they actually built the foundations. And I agree with you. Now, the challenge I saw, at least when I was working for a large company, is that a part of the organization will want to see results immediately. So how do you find that sweet spot between taking the time, making the investment to build the foundations that you clearly need, but also showing that part of the organization that you are making progress and that you actually could deliver business value very quickly? There are indeed things that you can deliver quickly. But you cannot deliver a lot of them, and not for a long time without the foundation, but you can deliver some things quickly. So how do you strike that balance between working on the foundation and actually fairly quickly showing business value? Because the risk is that they basically stop investing because they think you're just pouring money into a black hole, right? So how do what's a good way of managing that?
I think you have to, again, it depends on a company. It might be that one company says, okay, no, we are committed to it, we invest, we build it up, and then we scale whatsoever. Yeah? I think this is rare. Normally, most companies would want to see it very quickly. And you have to kind of trick the organization in a way, say, okay, but you have to really know your stakeholders and stuff like that. Yeah. So, and this is not like they are against it consciously. They just have different targets, different interests. They don't have the trust, maybe. And so on. Yeah. So these are the people. Most of them are like these people. And I want to share one picture while explaining it. So you have to, like you rightly said, you have to serve both. Yeah. But you have to be aware of these people. Let's say, so you see in the picture there are 2 guys running up the hill. Yeah. The one guy in front is a young guy. He wants to say, let's build a data-driven organization. Let's invent this. Let's design this, whatsoever. So you have all very, very reasonable ideas, but you don't have a backpack. You don't have a legacy whatsoever. So you're kind of like a startup. Yeah. But in an organization like ours, you have this, let's say, older, more senior guys behind him, and they carry this reinvent, reconsider, blah blah. So because you don't start from scratch, you have something that is working, and it's not implementing data-driven organization, but it's changing the organization, changing people whatsoever. So you have to find out these guys who are carrying this invent, redesign. And then you have to understand their interest, their motives and whatsoever. And ideally, you combine both. You are, in the best way, you have quick wins, which are possible. And, you know, sometimes you just call it AI, but it's not really AI, just because most of the people don't understand it. You call it AI, data-driven whatsoever, yeah? You do, for example, RPA, and you save lots of money, and you use this money to invest in this underground stuff, yeah? You make it sustainable by getting the right people, connect them and let them work on it. Maybe not everybody has to build the fundament for the whole company, but you do something in Mexico while in Poland they're doing something different. And then these are the pieces that you can combine, but you have to frequently show results from something. Whatever it is, you know, it could be small, but if you have a kind of a parallel plans, once is you build something for good, very stable, enabling the future change whatsoever, and then you have a plan to have, I don't know, every 6 months something to talk about, post on the intranet, whatever. What a cool thing, you know. We did something with Porsche, we developed a product. Everybody talks about it for 3 months, yeah? Then 3 months later, you do something with Daimler or with another country, and you talk. So you have to keep it positive context by delivering real things, maybe not huge things. At the same time, try to get this money partially invested in here, get some board members who support it, to build it. But I don't believe in big bang when you say, okay, we stop everything for 3 years, we build a fundament. It will not work because people get, you know, so you have to do both. Yeah, this is the trick. Yeah, and then you have to understand the organization, how to do it, when to do it. But you basically, you build a brand of data-driven AI by doing good stuff, even small stuff. So you always have this positive aura around it, you know, rather than like a big bang that didn't work, because big bangs usually don't work, you know.
Right. I have to think about SAP projects.
Yeah, but you know, but
sometimes.
And I also, I'm saying, you know, like also the speed is very important. You know, whatever you do, you have to think about speed, you know, because I'm saying, like, if you are very slow, then the enemy, if I may say so, has time to buy the weapons, to hide, to whatsoever. So if you have an idea, you have to, you know, like a bulb, like a normal bulb, you put it in and there's a light, yeah? If you have a idea and the screwing part of the bulb, like in the picture, is very, very long. It takes ages to get it in and have a light. Then you are screwed. You know, you are really screwed up. You know, so
management.
you have to be fast. You have to know your stakeholders. You have to start in a good timing. Maybe sometimes crisis is good. Sometimes good times are good, where people say, "Yeah, why not?" You know, so it's a very tricky thing, but the way you start, when you start, with whom, whatsoever, makes probably 50 or 60% of the success. Because at the end, what has to be done, you can Google. You can say, what is data-driven organization? Blah, 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 blah. You ask the consulting, they will tell you also, yeah? So the end product is easy. But to go from A to B, this is the trick, yeah? Even people don't know where they are. So this is also something that you have to work on, because some people say, we are data-driven. What do you want? So you have to really uncover the A to make it transparent. Oh shit, we are not data-driven. The others are more whatever. So once you define the A, you say, oh, we are not in Hamburg. We are actually in Munich, and we have to go to Helsinki or whatever. So it's much longer, yeah? And then you define the B, and on the way, hopefully you have some parties with small staff. So it's lots of communication also. Communication, expectation management, having the right partners, and having the vision at the same time, feeding the beast of the daily successes or something, you know, because they want it, you know.
Right. So I'm going to try to summarize this, what you said. So in order for a company or an organization to become data-driven, and this probably doesn't apply to insurance only, this applies to almost any business, you need to build the foundations. Now, you can't, and the foundations are these capabilities. The capabilities are about data, they're about processes, they're about people, they're about technology. And you need all these. You need to build all this foundation with data governance, with all these processes around it, ownership, and you need a good technological platform and all those things. And so, but you cannot afford usually as a company to spend a few years just working on this. You need in parallel to work on those quick wins and to provide business value as fast as you can, because some ideas do need the timing of some things. The time to market is key. Either you do it now or you don't do it at all. And I've also witnessed that sometimes you have a good idea, you actually do it, but it takes so long to go through all the motions into large companies, approval after approval of compliance and risk management and one after the other, that it takes so long to get something to the market that took 3 months to do, but it takes then 12 months to actually get it approved and having all the boxes ticked, that you lose the timing. You basically missed the time window. When you get it out there, it's already too late, or it's just not, it doesn't have the impact it could have had if you have done it a year before. And this happens over and over. So there's also this danger. And now different stakeholders involve the people who are carrying the burden and the legacy with them, because they're the ones who are bringing business to the organization now, right? And kind of, in order for these people, this was also my experience, to be able to accommodate the new things into their big heavy backpack, they need to get rid of some of the things, and these things take time, and it's not always easy, because some of these old things that sometimes the innovator doesn't understand are still bringing money to the company.
Exactly.
And this is what's paying the bills. So it is a very difficult position sometimes for the older people, that they are carrying all this legacy with them, to accommodate these things, because they need to accommodate them on top of all the things that they already have.
Exactly. And then you know, I think that, like in a private life, I mean, the timing is important. To know the other side is important. The stakeholders. The least important thing is the solution. Yeah, because you can get it left and right. I mean, nowadays everybody can buy service, can get a cloud, can get the Talanx whatsoever, you know. But when do you start? Is it like pandemic? In the pandemic, I mean, many companies, Zoom, Teams, whatsoever, make lots of business because it was perfect timing. Yeah. So you know that people will want it. Yeah. So you can push as much as possible this kind of tools and businesses. Yeah. If you come to me now and say, okay, hey Jan, I have a perfect breakfast for you. I say, hey, it's already like 3 o'clock. I mean, I'm not saying so. So right some companies coming with the solutions like an afternoon offering breakfast without ignoring completely the timing of the company. Say, hello, I mean, we don't need it now. I'm not so. Sometimes it's better to start maybe 1 year later, where there's a better timing than like before. If the board member is finishing his contract next year, maybe it's not a good time to start. Maybe you start with a new one. Yeah. So this is extremely important, and that's why you know, coming from the product perspective, so okay, I have a great product, so everybody should buy it now. You do cold calls and you are surprised that they're not buying. That is like offering breakfast at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Maybe some students would like it, yeah. But so you have to be really cautious about coming from the customer, understanding the stakeholders, and then placing your bets and accordingly, because at the end it will be more successful, rather than saying we decided now to do it and everybody's against it and you push it whatsoever. Yeah. And also I think that you will identify lots of people who want to do it, who say, okay, finally somebody wants to do it. Yeah. So what I also do, or what we do at Talanx, we identify, you can say, okay, there are people who want to do something and can do something. Yeah. Can is not a problem. You read 5 books, you do some training, whatsoever. But you have to find the people who want this change. Yeah. If they want this change and can, perfect. If they cannot, you can empower them. But these people will be they will pull their whole change forward. Yeah. And the rest will follow. Yeah. So I think it's a waste of time to convince the people who don't want. Really waste of time. If you don't people who want, you have to hire them or something. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, it is a bit what we do in our business at 2Impulse, is that we are not trying to push any product to our customers. We try to position ourselves as advisors, as sparring partners, and typically the customers approach us when they have some concrete need and we help them. But it's rare that we come in and impose something. Now, this product, you need to buy it now, because that doesn't work. We've tried it. We have this great product, tried to sell it, and that didn't work, because especially if we work with more large companies, established companies, they have there are other challenges there, and the product is not their biggest problem. Right, they have the change is their biggest challenge, and this is so sometimes they come back to us because, well, they've gone through they've gone to the next stage, and now they need technological help, and that's where we can help them. But we cannot help them drive that change because we are too small. Right, we are a small tech company. So, going back to the tech. Since this is a tech podcast, it's a very interesting topic, but still trying to keep that connection to change. Now, change in the way this industry works, in the way insurance works. Do you see technology changing that? Or do you see that technology will just help doing a better job, or what you're already doing better what you already do now? Or do you see something that is going to really disrupt the insurance industry let's say the next 10 years coming from technology? And if yes, what?
I maybe I don't know what would it be, but because there were different attempts already, like this peer-to-peer insurance, and I mean in a small area, small part of the business, I think there might be some disruption, whatever, but they have to scale. Yeah. Can you do 10 million customers? Can you do the insurance? So I think this is, I think there I don't see any specific disruption candidate. Yeah. But I think there's lots of areas where we can do what we do better without. I mean, the question is, what is disruption? Yeah, I mean, you could say.
Let me try to simplify it for you then. For example, so let's start with people, because people is our main topic here. So, do you see, for example, today jobs in the insurance industry that will no longer exist in 10 years because of technology?
Yeah, I think there will be many of them not existing. Or not necessary,
for example,
but not necessarily due to disruption. I think that
due to technology,
everything that a person does, and I can put it in an algorithm, I can describe it to 59%, will disappear.
Okay.
So if you do something super creative, I cannot put in an algorithm. You can talk to me for 2 weeks and you still cannot put in an algorithm. Yeah, they will not disappear. But everything that you could put in an algorithm will disappear. Yeah, so that means lots of back office in claims, because of the self-service, because of the image recognition we use already today, text recognition, contact centers where you have chat box, very smart ones, voice bots. I think the question is, so in a back office, in claims, fraud, maybe partially the product development where you will have maybe kind of like a menu that you can pick and choose as a customer, and you're not forced to use certain product this way. I think disruption I would consider disruption if insurance would be bought and not sold. I don't know how to do it, because it would be like kind of like paying taxes without having state asking you to pay it, you know, because it's considered kind of like paying tax. Yeah. So if somebody would have an idea to make insurance like I actually buy it without somebody has to sell it to me, a website or a person, that I would consider a big disruption. One idea, I mean, you could imagine, for example, that you could say,
but this is embedded insurance, isn't it?
No, not
Where
really.
when I buy
it's also
something,
sold. It's also sold. Yeah?
I buy something, and whatever I buy, it already comes with insurance. I don't need to think about it. I'm buying. It's just part of what I'm buying.
Yeah, I mean, you could, but then you would have to have for each insurance some kind of case where you can embed it and say, okay, you know, like a warranty, basically. You know, you buy a fridge and okay, I have a warranty or something. Yeah, but I think that if it comes to life insurance, I mean, you could embed it, but I think for me the disruption would be a real disruption if you say, I don't buy insurance, I invest my money, and I invest the amount that the underwriter calculated for me. So I have a house and a car and a family, and so okay, you have to save 1,000 euro per month or 500 euro, yeah. And when something happens, you can take this money and whatever, but it's your money. So basically, we manage your investment, but we tell you how much you should. Basically, I tell you what is your risk worth, and you have to invest it, or you can invest it, and I just manage the investment. And if you don't have enough, you can use peer-to-peer lending. The other guys can help you, some kind of a peer-to-peer, and you have maybe reinsurance in the back. So that I would consider something disruptive, but it doesn't exist yet. But you basically, they tell you how much to invest, and then you invest. And when something happens, you pay out of this money. And if not, you can lend to others maybe, or something like that, you know, maybe there's some other ideas, yeah. But
there used to be some insurance products, life insurance products, where you could build capital, and then in the end, if something happened to you, you're insured. But if it didn't, you could cash out the amount after.
You can cash out this. I mean, you can do it maybe on property insurance also, like P&C insurance, yeah. Embedded is one, but I think that definitely would be less manual work, less human work, but lots of things will be automated. And I think also it will be more individualized. The question is, where does it stop? Because insurance concept based on the community. So 100 people pay in, and the one with the bad luck get the money. And it's like inverted lottery. In lottery, 100 people pay
inverted
in,
lottery.
And
that's
one, they you know. But if you say, I know exactly Paulo's risk and Jan's risk and Ronald, then the the community of it doesn't make sense, because you would say, okay, I pay 1,000, the other guy 700 or 100. It's exactly the amount that you need to cover the risk. Then you could actually save it. So if you get to the point, the insurance doesn't make sense, because insurance only makes sense because you don't know exactly what your risk is, and you think you pay 100. Like for example, in Poland, we had a
but insurance
case,
is also about capacity, right? So I cannot possibly cover the loss of my house, right?
Exactly.
If I'm
so
paying a mortgage for it, so that capacity needs to come from somewhere else. So
exactly. So, but if you know exactly
you need the inverted lottery, otherwise it
what your
work.
risk is, then the other guys would say, I will not. Why do I pay for him? You know, if his risk is worth 50,000, maximum risk, then I will not pay for him. And I live in a small house in a village, whatever. For me, the risk is 10,000. So basically, to have a 100% precise risk prediction would insurance would be not necessary. Yeah, okay. Which I think will never happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So the other question I was going to ask you was, so you talked about jobs of people. So you said that so any job that could be or any test that could be somehow described by an algorithm or could be learned by some machine learning algorithm could be automated, and that means that those jobs are they'll either disappear or there will be a lot less jobs like that in the future. And then and that's one way that technology will bring up change, and this will continue to happen. I agree with you. Then second thing you talked about was a bit more on the disruptive side of new insurance business models, peer-to-peer insurance, or these different kinds of insurance models that don't exist. Insurance where you actually build up capital.
Fully embedded, I don't know, you are born and via taxes or something, immediately something starts being protected or something. Yeah.
One thing that I'm always a bit fantasizing about, and I do fantasize about insurance, is like I have my family, right? I have family, wife, one daughter, and we have a house, a car, actually 2 cars, and we have a few other risks. So I wish I could just go to an insurance company and say, look, I want insurance for my family. And this includes private liability insurance, includes health insurance, includes household, car, anything, everything that my family needs, right? All the protection. Risks, I want you to tell me what is my protection need, right? And give me one policy, one policy, not 15. I don't want 15 policies. Why? I want one for my family. One policy, and then I just need to pay in. That's it. And whenever something happens, I deal with, I have one single point of contact. Yeah. I have one policy, right, that I can monitor and do it. So I know for a fact that this is nearly impossible right now. The way the whole insurance
technically it's possible, but it's like if I would use this analogy to paying taxes. If you would pay taxes like we do insurance today, you would say you pay 10 euro for the roads, you 15 euro for the schools, you pay one bulk, and it's okay. You should pay that much, and all is covered. Yeah, you get a kindergarten, everything. Yeah, so technically it is possible because we have all these products, but why it doesn't work for different reasons. Once because of the history, legacy, because you have this focus whatsoever. But I believe that many times it will be the regulator that force you, that not allow you to bundle. Yeah. Because you have to have this kind of pricing or this regulation. So I think I can imagine that the regulation is one kind of showstopper sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think technically it's possible. Also for us, it's possible. Yeah, you need to have a good system, lots of data, and then depends, how many people would like it, because maybe you are just part of the market. Some people keep optimizing insurance on every single thing because of €5, like a bargain hunters. Some people, they're more convenient. You could say, okay, I take care of everything. You come to me. Maybe it will happen. I think it would be great. And also good customer experience, and you will know more about the customer. If the regulator allows it, I think that might be something that will come in the future because it's more convenient.
So regulation is the biggest obstacle. It's not.
I can imagine that in some markets it would not be so easy to.
No, definitely not. I agree.
Yeah.
They have all this, because I believe that.
Or you would need like really super systems in the back to split everything, to report and
you talked about. Yeah, I agree with you. It's very difficult, if nearly impossible nowadays, because exactly like you said, the insurance itself there's legacy, there's a history behind it, and the products were insurance companies kept adding products to their portfolio, and they have organizations behind those products, processes behind those products. So it's very hard for a company like, let's say, Allianz to say, okay, let's merge household with automotive. That just it means that, okay, throw away everything you have and start from scratch, basically, starting from the way you do reservation, the way you allocate capital for everything, the securities you have, the collaterals. It starts from there, right? That's the one problem. But regulation grew the same way. So as soon as new products came along,
but I agree with you that the biggest obstacle would be probably the current organization, the current split, the current systems, which makes it very hard or impossible. Not impossible, but people would use it as an argument. It's okay, you know, because some people would lose jobs. Maybe one startup could start doing it with a reinsurer. That might be something, but which is also very complex, because you need actual risk for all kind of risk, regulation, and so on. Yeah, so it is technically possible, but probably not very realistic.
We could start a startup where you have this one product, right? It's one product where with features, right? With coverages. It's one product, and there's only one product. It's family insurance. The family could be one person and one individual, but it could be 5 people or 10, and with different risks you could underwrite. You could buy coverage for those. Now, as soon as you try to go there and talk to regulators, they'll say, no, you can't do that. You need to.
I mean, what you probably could do, I think it would be probably one way to you just bundling the product, so you can source from different companies. You can one product from Allianz, one from Talanx, one from Zurich, whatever,
and you hide the complexity from the customer.
And you bundle this for you, so that should work, because the more if I know your risk whatsoever, I can kind of sell your risk to different companies, and I'm your broker or whatever,
and I collect the data, and I have the data.
So you have one point of contact, and I can pick and choose in the back who is covering you today or tomorrow, you know. But this is exactly the iceberg, where you say, okay, you have only one contact, and I take care of the complexity. That would be possible, probably, yeah.
Okay.
Like a concierge, kind of, you know.
But isn't that the insurance broker? Or the insurance representative, the guy who has the office and sells insurance? That's what he does.
No, normally yes.
Because then he resells the contract. You end up having 15 policies anyway.
Yeah, but also they also typically sell like 1-2 products, like kind of like the killer products, and then do some cross selling. But let's say a perfect broker, perfect agent would say, okay, Paulo, you give me all the data, all the risk, whatever you have, and I give you in 1 week, I give you an offer how to cover all the risks, you know?
But I want one policy. I don't want 15.
Yeah, he would have to probably make this one policy on behalf of you and take some risk whatsoever, because you will have to probably have different insurance in the back, you know? No. And you bundle it somehow, which I don't know regulatory wise how it would work, but technically
very interesting.
Would work. Yeah.
Maybe there is no market for this, and I'm just thinking of myself. But I think simplifying the insurance market, simplifying the insurance products, there is a market for that, clearly.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I think there is potential. Anyway, Jan, do you have any advice to any professional starting in this field, either of insurance or technology, that you'd like to give? Something that you learned throughout your career that you'd like to share?
Let me share a picture.
Yeah.
The final picture, because I think it might be something. I learned it actually from a company builder, from startup in Colombia.
All right.
And they say something like, because we were developing something with them, and they said, okay, we wanted to, actually we are doing this, like a platform business in Latin America. It's called not Central now, Joblet, across the continent. It's a very early stage, but it's working. And they said, okay, before we do it, we have to find a problem to fall in love with.
Right.
So we have to fall in love in a problem. Do you have a problem? And so I found it like really super easy, super impressive, and it applies to insurance, applies to you guys who are selling to insurance, whatsoever, that if you find a problem on the other side or in the market, and then you start testing different solutions, and then you eventually find the one, and it's like everybody loves it. Yeah. This is everybody say, yeah, of course, it's the right approach, yeah? But what happens very often in insurance, and also in the guys who are offering something to us, they fell in love with the solution. So I have a startup that does image recognition or text recognition. And I'm going around, so it's an incredible solution, but so I'm looking for a problem where it would fit. And that sometimes works, most of the time doesn't, yeah? And this is why I could say we have this product, we have the regulation, we have the setup. So we're looking for the problems that could somehow fit. And I think if you turn it around, so, okay, I found the problem. Let's say 5% of people are like you and they want to have convenience whatsoever. This is the problem, they don't have it. How do I solve it? This way. Then you go for the next one. And you forget what you have in production, but you just start producing once you understand the problem, you find the problem. And I think we and maybe also the startups and the technology companies love their solution and try to sell to each other the solution without even listening to each other sometimes what actually the problem or opportunity is. Yeah. So I think this observing, reading in between lines, meeting twice, looking around beyond the obvious slides whatsoever, you can find this door where you can go through and make business as an insurer, as a technology provider, whatsoever. So I think this is something that I would share. And I think this is very powerful because it's what you do normally in a private life. Yeah.
I agree with you. There is this, I don't know if this was like a commencement speech of Steve Jobs. I'm not a big fan of Steve Jobs' style, but I am of his vision and how he approached these things. And he said, well, you need to be passionate about what you're doing. So either about the problem or even about the solution, but you need to be passionate about it. Otherwise, you won't go the extra mile when things get tough.
Yeah, but you know, I think he was an incredible observer. You know.
Yeah.
Nobody told him, okay, let's have this kind of phone, but he was observing people. He was saying, okay, people use finger, people don't like. So he if you do the customer surveys and stuff, they will tell you like this example, get more horses or whatever, not build a car. Yeah. So I think you have to observe, really be a good observer and derive insights from it and then build something. Because sometimes people don't even know that this is the problem. So, but if you have good observers, or you are a good observer, then you find it, and then eventually start doing something that people love, want to buy. Yeah? But if you don't, then you might be lucky or not. But definitely, if you don't do this, you will have to sell it because nobody will buy it.
Right. So the best is when you don't have to sell anything. The people come and buy, and so
exactly, exactly.
And insurance should be that way too. It's a long way, I think.
It's a need, and companies who do business with needs have usually lower margins. The companies who do business with want have a higher margins. Or
that's a good one.
Or the parfum industry, fashion, whatever. Nobody needs that really, but you want it, yeah. So if you want it, the high margin is higher. You don't have to sell. If it's a need, and this is something that also regulator maybe doesn't help, because if they force you to insure the car, it becomes a need, like a tax. So you start optimizing the price. If they would say, you can buy it or not, whatever, like in Mexico and Brazil, then you can, so if it becomes a need, you have a problem. Yeah.
All right. So I just have one more question. Are you a hopeful person? Are you more skeptical? Do you think the world will be better, or do you think things are getting worse? Also associated to technology and the evolution.
The world is better already than before. If I look at my life, it become much better. If you look at the data and statistics, of course we have the war in Ukraine, which is horrible. We have female and climate, whatever. But overall, the world is becoming better and better. Of course, maybe it's not like this Turkey and Thanksgiving, then everything crashes. It's possible because we are like we are, a bit strange animals. But I think the world, in my case, and people who I see become much better, and there's no reason not to continue. Will you have wars? Yes. Will you have criminals? Yes. Doesn't stop you from enjoying the life and doing good stuff? No, because they are so visible. This is the availability bias. You see in the news what leads, blah, blah, blah. So people think the whole world is horrible because in the news. But they're around the corner, somebody got married, they got a baby, first kiss, whatever. Nobody talks about it, but it's happening, So what we see, the bad things, is just a little portion of what's going on, and most of it is really good. So I'm very positive.
I agree with you. I also think that the world is getting better, and people very easily forget that.
Read newspapers from 20 years ago or 30 years ago, the headlines, and you say what actually happened or not. And lots of it is like panicking, and because if you scare people, it's easier to manage them. Yeah, in the company or in the country sometimes, or the kids in the family. But at the end, it's just waste of time because you have only that window of opportunity to enjoy the life. Then you are dead. You can worry all the time, or you can do something good.
All right.
With or without data.
Yes.
Thank you, Paulo.
Thank you, Jan, for taking your time. It was a pleasure speaking to you. I think we all learned a lot. I hope we can speak again in the future and stay in touch. Thank you for watching, to the audience. Thank you for watching and listening to us. Don't forget to give us a like on YouTube, or to follow our podcast on Apple or Android or Spotify. And see you again next time.
And Merry Christmas if you celebrate.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you.